Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/designrecharge. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Another way to support the show is you can like the podcast, or if you're on YouTube, hit like. But I would love for you to share the podcast. So give it a review. I would love that. That really does help. Another way is to support the channel and get extra content like extra videos or part twos, or me giving you something to do like a design challenge. And I build websites. That's one of the main design ways that I make money for clients. I do strategy as well, but I build websites with the Elementor plugin. This thing has revolutionized how I do this. Oh, I forgot to tell you about Patreon. Oh my gosh, this is totally going off the rails. This is even a promo. What am I doing? Okay, on Patreon, I even have notes in front of me, people. Patreon.com/Diane Gibbs. Diane, it's all lowercase n, one N, Diane Gibbs. Again, my favorite way to build websites is through the Elementor plugin. It actually works with it's WordPress based, and it's making kind of any theme invincible. There's a free version and then there's a paid version. And the paid version is every year, but it is so meaty and it's really been great for me. I know a lot of people use different things, but if you want to try Elementor, try the free one. And then if you decide you want to buy it from here. So it's bit.ly/DR Elementor. It looks like Dr. Elementor. So I also use the Divi theme. That is the main theme that I use. They have their own builder. So if you buy that, you can get the Divi builder as well. You might like that one better than Elementor, but for me, I don't. I don't use the Divi builder. And it's a lifetime. It's a $250 for life. You can put the Divi theme on as many, and it's grid based. So you can totally go crazy. If you are a designer that likes grids, it's for you. And they get a ton of different configurations, but every site there are templates that if you wanted to do that, there are, but I like to go straight, all strategy, all from what I think they need to be doing. And you can get that at bit.ly/Diane Loves Divi. Again, my name's still with the one N. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. This is Diane Gibbs, your host, and I'm so excited, as everybody else here from all over the world. We've got Slovakia, Portugal, Bermuda, Canada, all over the United States, and the United Arab Emirates. Trying to think of everybody else that I'm really quickly, Belgium. I know, Fred, I was coming, buddy. But we're all over. So Nashville, Denver, we got 2 people from Colorado. Miami's well represented. And so I'm excited to have Drew Pocza here. And I know you guys are excited because you guys hung out with me talking to y'all on the side. But anyway, so Drew, we're going to get started. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. And again, apologies to no end about how embarrassing this is. This is a prompt for me to really buckle down, just get a new computer. It's been happening more and more, and it's embarrassing, but I'm super stoked to be here. So thanks.
Okay, well, we're going to get started because I think some people just really want to see and understand how you've been able to do it. So you've been working as a illustrator. Primarily, that's where you're getting your bread is won from illustration. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the goal for a lot of illustrators. There are a lot of illustrators here in the chat from all over. I know Andre's in Portugal, and he's a full-time illustrator as well.
Cool.
Carlos is an illustrator in California. So one of the things, and I know Beth's here from Kansas. So a lot of times people want to know how can I, and Mariana is also a full-time illustrator also in Portugal. So how can they make this full-time? So one of the things is you haven't always been living high on the hog. It's not like, kick back, I'm taking whatever illustration jobs I want. But you've chosen to maybe go without so that you can just do illustration, right?
For the most part, I think that if I was to be honest, it was mostly I fell into illustration. I had a really decent job working at a nerd factory like Dungeons and Dragons tabletop kind of stuff, and working for Dungeon and Dragon magazine, as well as Paizo Publishing, who actually did that stuff. So in 2008, I got laid off, and then it was just like a little bit of design work here and there, and then the illustration work started to filter in, and next thing you know, it just started snowballing. And I wouldn't say big snowball, but enough to really get that taste and want to do that more and more, and try and figure out, well, how can I get paid to do what I love? And slowly but surely, design kind of went off the wayside, and I've been doing a lot of kids ministry stuff, a lot of big churches that I've done stuff for. It's kind of like, hey, somebody sees that something, and then they see it, and it just kind of has just really developed into and grown into a not a, I put the starving in artist, but it's been a good thing for me personally. Like, I know I'm rambling, but it's a before that, I should say it was always been a struggle. But then I had gone through a divorce, and I just kind of went down into a really bad place. But it helped me kind of rise up through that, and to be able to learn to realize that I can live with a lot less, and not need so much. Just kind of get down to basics. And so I live in a very, very expensive area, but God's blessed me with a great rent that I can really, really afford. And so that helps me just to kind of not have to chase it all so much. And I just really enjoy, I try and live in the moment. And part of that has become through a near-death experience with my son. And so I realized that as he was recovering from sudden cardiac arrest, I realized that there's just some things that are more important. And so I used to hustle all the time and try to work. And then I realized I was wasting time. Not wasting because I was providing for my family, but like now I cherish the moment. So sadly, a lot of my clients know that they need to buffer Drew a little bit, pat him a little bit more with time, because like I might just go hang out, and that's kind of the luxury, if you will. But it's more because I'm trying to redeem the time and enjoy those moments, so that someday when I'm old, I won't say, well, I got all this money, but no memories.
Yeah.
So I have gone without a lot of stuff, like a new computer, things like that. But boy, I'm just pretty happy where I'm at.
So one of the other things is you live in Seattle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be, and we talked about this before, so like seasonal affect disorder. And I was like, this is one thing. Where I live is very sunny, thankfully. And if there are too many rainy days, it can really affect my mood. And I can imagine if I'm trying to write or draw a whole bunch of really happy Jesus characters, or, something that's very uplifting, especially for kids, it can be really hard to like get in and do those things. So how do you, I know you started taking yoga, and that's been a huge blessing to you. And then can you just talk a little bit about that? Because that's a like a life shift. And I don't know when you started doing that. I don't know if that was before the bad part in your life, or if that was after.
Well, I have been doing martial arts for about just over 10 years. Got two black belts in two different martial arts styles. And I was getting what we call jokingly concussive therapy. So I was feeling really achy and sore from all the sparring and the fun stuff like that. But I had been having some hip issues. And so we started offering a yoga class at the dojo. And I thought, well, I'll just try it. Something's got to help. And then I was like, oh, that's it. This is the thing. And I started to just really enjoy. I was all afraid of the yoga woohoo and all the weird stuff that, people typically associate with it. But when I realized how much it was helpful, I knew right away I wanted to teach. And so I, early on, I just set out to hit as much yoga as I could, and then thought, I'm going to just do teacher training. And right at the same time, my now ex-wife had said, I'm leaving. And so there's never a perfect time to do yoga teacher training. And so when I was in just a really, really down funk, it was an ideal time. And so I just That was the only thing that got me off the couch, and was to just really, through depression, was to go. And I had a yoga buddy that would say, okay, you're going to be here at this class and that class. And then I was a junkie. And now it helped me lose a lot of weight, stay fit. And it's just been a real big life change. And so once you start changing those things in your life, then you're starting to think, oh, wow, you know what? McDonald's isn't so good, and whatever, you're trying to take care of yourself. And so you're trying to slowly get rid of the bad stuff as you're bringing in the good. And then, as artists or anyone who sits at the desk all day, we're like, oh, where's this next comfortable spot? Now I need a rising desk. I need whatever. And so yoga has been a retreat for me to not only take as a student to get away from the computer, but to also do the same thing. And so I needed a few extra bucks. So now I teach as another side income to illustration, so that I can just go and get away from the computer and release the mind.
And you said that sometimes you'll be in the last pose is usually laying down, right?
Yeah, Shavasana, corpse pose.
Right. So you're just laying there, and then sometimes that's when an idea hits you. And
yeah.
I take my kids to a yoga class because I think it's a great de-stress.
Awesome.
And so we have yoga on campus. And so I'm like, oh, well, you guys, we're going to do this. It's in their senior year. I take them to a yoga class. Now, sometimes some kids are like, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, then you're going to do these exercises while we are exercising somewhere else. But I think it's really a neat bonding time for us as a unit. And it's usually towards the beginning of the semester. But it really is. So there's I think some people get a little scared maybe of the woo-hooey bit of yoga, but Catherine is also an illustrator in Atlanta, and she says yoga is everything. She's also,
I just realized, I can see notes.
Yes, you can see notes. Yes. So Rajim has a question. So I don't know. Do you want to say anything about like going into that last pose and how?
Yeah, actually, just to kind of just before we move on, there's just been so many. The cool thing about yoga and the way I look at it is it's a moving meditation. I'm not sitting there contemplating my navel or anything like that. I'm just not thinking. I'm only thinking about, am I going to survive? And is my stance correct? And then so it shuts everything else out. I've been in a class where I've just been so frustrated. Or maybe a certain song will come on and it's a hot class, and thankfully it's a hot class because the tears will just be coming down. I'm just shutting it all out, and I'm just getting into myself. And then once the slate is clean and I'm laying in there and the endorphins have kicked in, some people call it the bliss. It's endorphins. Runners get it, whatever. But as you're laying there, all of a sudden, there it is, and there's that answer. Or maybe it was a gag for a comic strip I was working on, or just something. And then I was like, I couldn't wait to get home and do it. But one thing I would encourage you to do, and I don't know if you have it at the campus, since you're looking into that kind of team building stuff, is acro yoga, partner yoga, where you support each other up. And my wife and I did that. And it is, it's the cool new trust fall. It's the whatever. It's very cool to be able to, me laying on my back, my feet up in the air, and she's sitting up on there, and then flowing down. We're spinning. Acro yoga. Look it up. It'll be good. Your class will.
Cool. I don't know if we have that in Alabama, but I'm sure some other cool people in Colorado have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Florida, maybe. So I always like to make sure that I get the questions from the chat, and I know that there's one question in my questions box, which I'm going to get. So Rajim asks, and I think this is such a killer question. She says, I want to get into illustration, but I'm still trying to find my own style. How did you find your style, Drew? Because there is the Saddleback Kids kind of style, and then there's the Drew does yoga style. They're different. They have some similar line weights, but really they're different characters and different kind of feels.
Sure.
But how did you do that?
Let's see, I'm 49, so lots and lots of drawing. But I think that it is lots of drawing and lots of emulating other artists that I might like. Seeing you start to gravitate towards people. And then it's kind of like Bruce Lee would say with Jeet Kune Do. He would take the best of certain martial art styles and then he placed it into his stuff. So if you can find a way, I think, to find what you love in somebody else's work, not I'm a big fan of Pusshead and Von Bodie. I wouldn't necessarily go and Google them, but they're phenomenal. They had a phenomenal impact on me, and I can look back now and see the as a kid the line weight, all that stuff in my work, but yet it's still uniquely me. But for example, with the way I developed the Saddleback Kid stuff is simply how many ways can I draw, Israelites, Jews, without being, cartoonishly racist, if you will. There was a sensitive. So I was thinking about kind of like the old cartoon Doug, like everybody's just colors and they were different, just nothing really worked, but that worked. And so I thought, well, I'm going to make them wonky and really just have a lot of fun with that. And then just put the garb on, and that sort of just kind of took over, and then it just started to blossom from there.
That's awesome. So
I think it's also part of the line work. I created my own brush, so I like to use that brush whether I'm doing mechanical illustrations or wonky cartoon characters. But so that's the feel, that's the kind of the signature Drew, the Drew difference or whatever you want to call it, But I've tried other great brushes and things like that, but I always go back to mine.
So then do you often do them by hand first and then jump on the computer or the iPad, or what's your normal process?
It used to be sketching, just like old school. And I found one of the old sketchbooks from a few years ago. And I was like, oh, this was magic, just that feel, that tactile experience. Mm-hmm. But now I just use Sketchbook. And it is a phenomenal program. It just helps me whip up the stuff I want to do, and then I take it over to Illustrator and clean it up in there. Cool. Sometimes Photoshop if I have to.
So most of yours are all vector based.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I'd say 99%. If I do anything, it's to go in and add some sort of bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm. So Carlos turned me on to Sketchbook, and he uses that one, and he says it's free. So I love that, and it is a program on your computer, and that you can draw, and I guess you can make your own kind of brushes in there as well, right?
Yeah. A lot of people are doing that, or they're. I think you can use it on an iPad. Yep. I have a Cintiq, and so I never, because I don't want to be. I mean, I want to be mobile, but I don't want to be mobile because that means then I'll have to work. So if I can leave the computer and not have to be somewhere and do something, then that's great. But at the same time, it's also a very expensive sketch pad. So yeah, I started off in Sketchbook. I used to use Sketchbook Pro, but they did something with that, so it's no longer functioning. But Sketchbook is a phenomenal program. Very easy. So
like what you were saying with Regime, just make drawings all the time. Draw, and then you'll find and change your tools, change different. Because sometimes you'll use watercolor with or it looks like watercolor for me.
It is.
And so you just kind of have to find, and so it may be a different type of brush, or maybe it's bigger than you, and you've been working small. So I think it's trying things until you really find that right fit. Correct?
Oh, totally. And that makes me think of how there was a time period where I just wanted to get away from the computer. I just abhorred the computer. Because I'm always looking at it on my phone. I'm always doing something. But then you're getting all these new Photoshop brushes, these new whatevers, and they emulate. I got some of the Kyle brushes for watercolors, and they were beautiful. They were cool, but they were just laying down, and they did a good job at that. But if you've played with watercolor, it's a different experience. And so then I went to Creative South, and where we met, and I think it was Lydia. She had that block.
Yeah.
And I took that, and that helped me just think. And it was about being tactile, getting away from the computer and actually making something, getting my hands inky, and then having this end product. And so that helped me realize, oh, okay, so when I'm trying to emulate watercolors in Photoshop, I know how they should actually be, or how does a lino cut work, where those little dinks and those little lines go, instead of just imagining. I know that there's some beautiful brushes, like gouache brushes, they emulate gouache, But if you play with gouache, you know that it doesn't really actually work like that. And so I'm a big fan of getting back, doing the process, do the roots process. So like even with silk screening, it's helping me learn in different layers of separations, and how can I simplify my designs and just get tactile with it. And then I can bring that knowledge to digital and be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. For real. Okay. So that's another thing that you're into, and why I didn't get to see you last year at Create, or this past April, was because you were choosing to do silk screen. So this is another, your title of your show is an illustrator with multiple income streams. So I just want people to know that it's not as easy as it sounds to only do illustration, right? And you actually, we'll get to this in just a second, but you had to seek out these people, Saddleback or Mars Hill, or these were people that you were seeking out, as well as you have illustration that you do for your brand and your products, so that you now have a product line, and that you can buy t-shirts on Amazon. I'm going to give you that link in just a second.
And soon Etsy.
And soon on Etsy. And the Etsy ones are going to be a little bit more artsy, right?
Yes.
So, but I got a sock monkey doing yoga, and so I can't wait to get it. So I'm really, really excited.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. So, so you have that. So right now there's client work. Then there's also Drew work that is just for your brand.
Yeah.
And there's also teaching yoga, which again, and all three are the client work is really very catered to a specific kind of audience. When you're talking about your Saddleback stuff. And then there's the Drew stuff. A lot of it is yoga based, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you're also teaching yoga. So I always feel like people are like, oh, I don't want to hone in on one niche. But what you've done is you have the style, and now you've picked something because you know what those people are like, and they will, and I think it's knowing your audience, knowing the people, the church audience, as well as knowing the yoga audience.
Right.
Right.
And it's a difficult path, I think, at times, because there's some stuff that I'm into that I know that the average church community just would not dig or appreciate. So that's a separate brand, but I don't promote it on like Instagram or anything like that. It's just stuff that I do, Saddleback stuff, like they really allow a lot of freedom, and they want me to express different just try new things and fun, and it's so neat. But again, getting away from the computer, going and teaching yoga, that helped me realize, you know what, that's who I am, and I'm about authenticity. And I want to, no matter what I'm into, I know I'm saying I'm trying to be authentic, but I've got this other stuff I do too. But it will all come out kind of in a sense in the right timing. But it's like I'm perfecting some other avenues, but yoga is the main one, and most people don't have a problem with that. And I I look at it more like wellness. So wellness is also, it's physical and spiritual. Mm-hmm. And so the church stuff I do is the spiritual stuff, and the yoga is health and physical. And it's not just, I do a lot of vegetables and fruits doing yoga and stuff like that. It's about bringing the good stuff in, eating, all that kind of stuff. And then I thought, well, how can I really represent me? And I thought, well, I'm not going to have two websites. I don't have time to maintain two lifestyles. And so I just put it all under one umbrella. So the cartoon of me sitting in the lotus represents, illustration and yoga. And so, that's why, just even practicing my silkscreen stuff, and that used to be a cartoon character or a comic strip that I would do. And it was Strange But Drew, and it was autobiographical. And so I did art for clients and then free time just for me, to keep the craft going.
So one of the things Fred is in Belgium. He's 16. He just finished his sophomore year, and he
Nice.
wants to know, one of our last questions is, what advice would you give your younger self? We're not done. We're going to keep going till 3, but if that's okay with you, which is 1 o'clock your time. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm good. I'll be here as long as you want.
Okay.
Oh man.
I know that's kind of it's a tough question. Usually I leave it to the end, but he asked it early, and he's
Yes.
really searching, which I think is amazing. I don't know many 16-year-olds who are going to hang out with a whole bunch of older designers,
Right?
or
Art
people who
making the
are,
world smaller.
yeah, which I
Yeah.
love. So it shows his passion for sure.
What would I tell my younger self? Let's see here. Boy, this would have major life ramifications. Um, so I'll try to keep it career minded, if you will. But I would say go to. I didn't go to art school. I went to Bible college. I was supposed to be this like hip, cool youth pastor guy, and then that just didn't work out. And then all of a sudden, I'm having to kind of start all the way over. So I didn't go back to college for a number of years after that. So I would say, younger Drew, I wonder if younger Drew now has the internet, because back then I had to go to the library. I had to
So yeah,
find,
say you're 16 right now. What would you
okay,
tell
and
yourself?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Everything is on YouTube. Or the genius of this is, I mean, we're able to have this this discussion, this dialogue. I'm reaching out to people left and right, and because we have access to people, so it never hurts to ask. We're in a new guard now, in a sense, this whole millennial lifestyle where before secrets were trade secrets. You had to maybe apprentice, or you had to do whatever to get the scoop. Now it's just information is freely given, so just devour whatever you're interested in and seek those people who are doing it, and most likely they will respond, and they'll give you the instruction that you need, and if they're trying to sell you something, run, but because it's all out there for free. I don't think I would go to college. I would just do it. There's literally everything is at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And get away from the computer. Draw, do paint, do whatever. Don't rely on the computer.
It's just
That's
a
the
tool.
number one.
Just one tool. It's just like a hammer. You
Yep.
can build a house with a hammer,
Yeah.
but it's easier if you use a saw and a screwdriver and
Yeah.
a power drill,
Yep.
like there's
Or even know how to use a hammer before you go on to the power, what is it, the
staple gun or something.
well, the big the nail gun,
Yeah.
know how stuff works, then apply it. So
Mm.
that would be my encouragement.
I like that. Okay. So, all right. So you kind of gave us your very brief background of your education. So in illustration, so you've been drawing since you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Did you always kind of favor more cartoon styles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I like to think that my no talent is a talent. Like, again, kind of that philosophy of Jeet Kune Do. It's this, I can't draw anything photorealistic. I can't do certain things. My anatomy sucks. So that's why everybody's wonky, but I've been able to take that. I'm kind of almost going in reverse. I did stuff digital. I thought, oh my gosh, this application, this Illustrator can do what I want, what I dream I can do. And then I realized that that's just the tool. So now, again, hitting almost 50, I've gone back to paper, and it's like, oh, now I know how I can recreate all this stuff. And again, that information's out there. So I've been devouring YouTube like mad. I actually just ended up paying the $15 a month to get rid of all the ads.
Ads. Oh yeah. So I want to share some of your work. So I'm just going to go to your Instagram. And,
okay.
I think that people can see this, right?
I hope.
I think so. Let me make sure my chat is available so I can still see. Yep. Okay. So these are the sock monkeys, which I think are just the cutest things ever. But one of the things that I think really, so you say it's not talented, but boy, for me, somebody who's just trying, it seems like a lot of talent, Drew. And so it can be a little overwhelming for somebody like me. But one of the things I think is what helps me to know where my skill is compared to somebody else is that
Mm-hmm.
their use of shadow and shading to me.
Mm.
And so this is one of, again, one of your superpowers, because you're able to just put these highlights and put these lowlights in areas, but you also convey such an emotion.
Mm.
And I love, I love these things.
Thank
So,
you.
so I don't know if you want to talk to, so a lot, this one, the hide and seek champion for Bigfoot, I thought was great. So there's a lot of humor in this. So with Saddleback, is that something, when you said that they really give you a lot of space for creativity, are you able to kind of put in, like, as you are here, because these are your pieces, are you
Mhm.
able to put in some of your humor into some of the things that you do for clients?
Yeah, in fact, I love dropping Easter eggs. Like I don't do it with Saddleback well, I mean, I kind of did a little bit, but we needed to kind of stay a little bit more true to what's going on in the Bible. So I didn't want to like when I was doing my Drawn by Faith series for my best friend who's a pastor. Instead of like a big lamb or whatever what is on the altar, it was a big altar, like there was a hot dog, like a bratwurst or something, just little fun little nods like that. Or if I would do stuff for when I do work for Microsoft, some of the Xbox stuff, did a lot of illustrations for those infographic sort of cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like on a desk of somebody who might be sitting there working on their computer, you might have Master Chief from Halo, a little bobblehead. There were all these little nods that I would try and season it with. So,
So one of the things I wanted to ask you,
mhm.
and you had talked to me about this when we had our test call,
Yeah,
which went off no problems, which I think is
I
hilarious.
I
But
was yeah.
it's because, Drew, you had 37 people who were just willing to hear me um, go on and on. So I'm so excited. That's how much they love you. And I was telling them what you were texting me, so they
Oh,
they were in the loop.
updates along the way.
Yeah, exactly. So with things, like, so much of this it's not just your personality, it is your personality, but like Smile, it's just yoga, are things that you've had to embrace because sometimes they days get too hard. You definitely have a lot of texture in your work, but your humor, the way the bodies move, like in the Santa, there's just a ton of fun in what you're pulling out. So
Thanks.
it's amazing. And so it's, all these things, a lot of these are available, like the Taco Tuesdays, and
Mm-hmm.
some days tacos are my yoga. um those things are available, and this one too, I think, is on Amazon as well.
Yeah, yeah, and some of them, Amazon's a different beast. So some of these I have to repost because if they don't sell them a certain amount of time, it might be
Mm.
keywords that are not doing it. But it's just and I would love to explain that a little bit more later. But it's been allowing me to explore creativity in a different way.
Right.
Like just like I almost think of everything. Oh my gosh, that's a great T-shirt idea. You know.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
I
see,
think
so there's the comic strip kind of started, the center one there, or the ones down, the characters down there. Those are me, but they started as a lot of the stuff starts off. It's actually stuff I've said or I've done. Like even the smile is just yoga. Like a mantra that I say to class all the time. Or like even we've got the oh yeah, there it is, the one below it too, the slow flow mofos. We just kind of, it's just a yin class. So I give out stickers to my students, but they don't all get it, and they don't get it all right then and there. But like if they've done a great job in class, and they've just, I can see that there's just been some sort of gains going on. So while they're in Shavasana land there, I just try to be like the yoga ninja guy and sneak in and drop little stickers along the way. And then they get so surprised, so it's a real treat to see people, just see it on their water bottle, or on their T-shirts or whatever. So it's been a real community building thing as well.
I love that. But I love these, like the
Oh,
the
thank
stuff
you.
that you've done in watercolor. And I think it is good to step away from the computer. I think it's an amazing tool, and
Yeah,
you
I love
have
it.
to come into that. But I love your use of color. I hate to kind of hover over them because then they change color, so I have to click on them. But
Yeah.
but they're just such a fun emotion. as well as just like I just love that it looks like that is what your legs look like when you're in the pool. You know, it's just the weightlessness, and
Yeah.
I love the watercolor can be a real beast, I think.
Hmm.
You know, it's really good when you let it go. So I think watercolor and yoga are great together because you really have
Yeah.
to just embrace. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm going to stop the share so that we can get back to
And
your.
some of those are like Dr. Higgins inks, so they're more of a colored India ink,
Mhm.
so you can layer it, you can play with it a lot more. But then moving into the watercolors, and there was a big piece of puzzle that I did for Saddleback, and sadly they never used it, but it was the one of the goat in there, and but it was really fun to think. And then the scary thing is, once you make a mistake, it's not like Command Z or hide that layer. It's like rip, start over, so it was that challenge of owning your lines, imperfections and all.
Well, and I'm going to go back to it real quick. So let me share my screen again. So I know what but sometimes it's just about having, just like in yoga, it's like sticking to a position. So
Yeah.
for me, making these legs straight, right? So this is, all, I believe, in the computer, right?
Yeah, that's digital based off of another watercolor, but yeah,
But
exactly.
look at this subtle little line. So you're choosing the texture to kind of come around. You have your highlight. So these are things
Mhm.
that I'm working on. So then I see
Oh,
these.
cool.
But I love the texture of this brush. But then if you go back, you also see, so this is a watercolor, right? And
Yes.
but look at these legs, like it's like he's on the stilts or something, I guess.
Yeah, well,
Or
and so it's kind of embarrassing because that's part of that acro yoga.
oh,
So the grapefruit is there with the arms out to the sides, but the legs are up. But then I forgot, and I wasn't thinking, and I made the kind of where the pick. It looks like it's his butthole. So I didn't mean that, but like it's a gross looking picture so I can't unsee it. So I only look at the strawberry. This is
and he's so cute. I
And
I
that's one of
don't
the
care.
poses that like you have the other people standing up on, and it's a
Right.
blast.
But I love this that you're kind of
Oh,
showing that you're really working out a lot of things, and your shading, is very different from watercolor to the digital, which I think is really really cool.
yeah, and I love those side by sides to show
Hmm.
like, hey, this is how I'm going to clean it up and make it happen. But and then block printing, the lino cuts, not as much as I like, but more digital stuff.
Hmm.
Oh, and I love playing with, pictures. That's my grassy lawn out there, and queen bee, just having
I
a good time.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Anyway, so I really like the emotion that you can capture in
Thank you.
simple lines, and I think that goes kind of with how you're living, that you're
Hmm.
living simply. I don't know if that got better when you if your line work started. So one of the things I wanted us to talk about, and I don't know if
Hmm.
you can share your screen to show the progression, but we talked
Um,
about that you've worked for Saddleback for a number of years.
yeah,
And really, that is a challenge of having one client over and over and over for so long.
right.
And that how can you grow, and how can you continue to push yourself in something, like that?
Yeah, I can try and show let's see if you'll coach me through here. How
Yep.
do I
So
go to?
hover over my face, and then at the bottom there's a green button that says share, and then you do have to have the thing that you're going to share already open. Do you have it open already?
Yeah, I've got my Illustrator file. So now let's see. Wait, there's more. Let's see. Wait, no. So I guess I'm not. I've forgotten now because
It's okay.
I'm hovering over you, but I'm not
And
seeing.
at the bottom, there's something like mute, stop video on the left hand side, and then
Oh, yeah.
distance. And then in the middle, there's something that says share, or it's
Ah,
command.
oh, the big green thing that says share.
They can't see it, but while you're answering, while you're getting to this, Frankie has a great question. She said, "What 2 or 3 YouTube channels or shows would you recommend?"
Oh, wow. Because I'm in silkscreen mode right now.
Mhm.
Let's see, did that work at all?
Yep, we see a Noah's Ark.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'll just leave it there. Let me just get to this question. Boy, there are a lot of
Is there something you search for that
yeah,
would help? Because
yeah.
I think maybe that's a better. because maybe it's not just one channel.
It isn't. My recommendations are quite a surprise as well. There's this great guy named BJ Delback, and I can't think of his. I'd be happy to supply any notes or anything afterwards, or anything I'm rambling. But he does this great show called Let's Draw, and he breaks down stuff on the iPad, and it is phenomenal. And it's similar to my style, so we've become good friends.
Oh,
and
cool.
But I would say, because I'm into different stuff like silk screening, so all my feed is like, I know who to go to about silk screening, or merch by Amazon, or just whatever it is, even playing music. So there's just different, but I would be more than happy to think about, but I haven't thought about illustration in a while, because I've been so into my own thing. Like, I feel like I've got my style now. So now the homework is, how do you burn a silk screen? How do I, or listen to a TED talk or whatever it is, so I'm just full of different things.
Right.
But it's out there, believe me.
So pre-drag, I guess he's not able to see he just has a black screen. Is anybody else seeing that? Or y'all, I think Debbie, you were able to see the side-by-sides. I just want to make sure. Can somebody text in the chat? Okay. Taylor says she can see it. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. So, let's see, where should I start? I don't even know. So go back to, we've already seen that on Instagram. So it's my character design of me.
So when did you design this, Drew?
Probably 3-ish years ago. I had a couple other variations, but this one sort of morphed into a much more animated, fun character, and I absolutely love him, and I want to start doing more. But now my humor has changed. It used to be very, very snarky and very jaded, but now I'm trying to think of, how can Drew be happy? Because this was born out of like kind of like a birth pang, like a hard time. But now I'm in a good time. So I don't know. So I might have to go absolutely so cute it's repulsive. My wife, she likes the character, but she doesn't like the old humor, because that's old Drew. And so now that we're coming up on 2 years of marriage, and she's like, that's just not who you are. So, and she would love for me to draw her, I think, but she's too pretty. So, but I love it. So I wouldn't mind making it more instructional, or do things with him, because he is the brand. I'm the brand. That's him. So. Try and get the tattoos, everything in there. So
I know, I love it. So Veronica says, wow, that's expressive and beautiful. And pre-drag can see it now. So that's awesome.
Well, and real quick to touch off on that, the simplicity of the line, I had this philosophy of trying to get the most out of the least. Like, how much can I get without overdoing it? I just want to be as few lines as possible. To make it expressive, because I could go on and try and fill it, but there was no need for it. And most of the backgrounds didn't exist, because I wanted it to be the storytelling and the character and just him just kind of doing stuff, whether it was getting my hair cut or dressing up for Halloween. But I wanted the imagination to be there, and it saved time by not drawing a background. So yeah, I would love to find time to do more Strange But Drew.
I love that.
Thanks. And then let's see what's going to pop up. Oh, okay. So right now, today's homework assignment is activity sheets for Saddleback. So again, that same line work, but now it's over here in the biblical proportions, like Zacchaeus. And so what has become very popular is this variation of Jesus. The kids absolutely love it. And as they're making him kind of come on scene, he'd like, "Ayo." And so we made T-shirts of Jesus saying "Ayo." And it's just been, my contact there said, she's like, we had another picture of Jesus, and I said, well, that's not what Jesus looked like. He looks like this. And so I'm kind of, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I'm molding and shaping the minds of kids today with my interpretations. So it's kind of fun.
I love that. So what about the shape of this? So is it a certain leaf? Because that was the kind of tree that Zacchaeus climbed?
Yeah. Well, so let's see here. I'll turn off this stuff. And then, so there were bread slices that we illustrated. We put the story in these little bread slices, and they would cut through that. Well, cut around it and make like little crafts with it. So then they're like, well, let's make we need to have leaves, but leaves don't really, I need to stack a bunch on there. So I had to kind of modify a fig leaf. So they're a little bit more rounded. This is just more of a super simplified, hopefully they can cut around it and not hurt themselves, kind of a thing. But so yeah, a leaf was intended to kind of pull that Zacchaeus story a little bit more.
I love that. That's
Thanks.
great.
So that's what I'm trying to rush now and get stuff done for them. But I really, but this is the kind of stuff that drives me.
You had talked about the excitement, this is the stuff that's doing it now. And it's hard if you have a client that's really long-term what is getting you that excited in a long-term kind of way, because it's hard to continue to reinvent yourself, right?
Yeah. And one of the things that I was known for years ago was drawing Cthulhu. I did, it was kind of very popular. So now I'm known for drawing Jesus, and I was known for drawing monsters and Cthulhu. And so I just love it. And so this was a play on, I forgot what the Muir's full name is. I keep thinking of Mike Muir, but that's Suicidal Tendencies. This is like some famous writer, anyways. And his thing was, the mountains are calling and I must go. And the Call of Cthulhu was kind of a fun little play on that. So Cthulhu is calling and I must go. And he's known as this giant that either comes out of the water or, opens up mountains, kind of strides through them. So I had to pull this design down because of copyright infringement. I thought Cthulhu was open to open source, but it's trademarked. So I pulled it down. But I love the design.
Yeah, so, fun.
And here's
I love that one.
So here's the template that I have to work on. I have a small space that I can work within, but I try and make it a good size. I don't like to totally blow it up. But this, I will not take credit for this is a very popular niche right now, the World Hide and Seek Champion or whatever. But I'm trying to add my own simple spin. Everybody else is going silhouettes and crazy. And this was from a hike called Rattlesnake Lake. And since Bigfoot is very popular up here in the PNW, I thought, why not?
I love it. And he's so happy. But you have a watercolor of him as well.
Yeah, and I don't have that pulled up because Photoshop would just...
No, it's okay. We don't want you to...
But the watercolor is what started that, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, oops.
But it's also knowing, so having your own brand is a whole nother ball game, and it's being in tune with what is selling. And that's where with Amazon, you're able to make these designs and then you're able to kind of test things and then see if this is something that is going to work. So
exactly.
You have to put your entrepreneur hat, your business hat on for that.
Certainly. And there's a fine line between doing what I want to do and what is the market going to bear.
Exactly.
And so I'm having to realize, okay, go with what you know, do what you love, but also do and make sure that people are buying that. Otherwise, you're just wasting time.
Right.
So, the basic vector version, and then in Illustrator, just putting a mask on so that, but this is obviously a different one. So I had played with more of a Bigfoot with a mullet. And I don't know why mullets, you'll see Jesus with a mullet. You'll see Bigfoot here with a mullet. Most of my Bible characters have mullets. I just love it. And so there's just a casual hiking one. But then, so here's what I did because I love it. And then I did something that I absolutely feel deep shame for. And that is dabbing. I do not know why people still like dabbing stuff. On Merch by Amazon, there's a lot of people dabbing unicorns, dabbing leprechauns, dabbing whatever. They just go through the roof. So I thought, all right, I'm going to try it because it's what the market wants. So, and I actually kind of had fun with it, truth be told. So
Frankie wants to know, did you ever like the show Hey Arnold? This sort of has that genre to her.
I love Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, that 90s sort of vibe. And so, that's a big influence on me. And my son was in Invader Zim, my son, and SpongeBob. My son was a little kid at the time. And so I got to live vicariously through him, So yes, it did have huge impact on me. And then it shows up later on and you're like, oh man, I just drew Screech from Saved by the Bell. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So
But
there's
I
that.
think you have to, if you're going to have your own line, you have to understand what is selling, what people are buying, because like you said, otherwise
Yeah.
you're just wasting time. And I think that this is then it's a hobby. It's not something that you're doing for money. This is a business. You're trying to do this so you
Right.
can spend more time with your wife and spend more time with your son
Yeah.
because life
Yep.
is too short, right?
Yeah, and my goal is to do enough with my own IP and selling T-shirts and stuff that I can get my wife to come and work with me. And it's just this thing because we got 5 dogs, and it's a lot for me to just get my work done and play with the 5 dogs all the time. So I have to do the bread and butter work like this, but I really try and have fun with it too.
Right.
This is a complete departure from that of the stuff, but yet you can still see it's me. And this was for a thing for Lowe's lumber, but they used to do kids activities, and so this actually never saw the light of day, but it's one of my favorite pieces, and still kind of going back to, you can see that this is, I think, pre-Saddleback, but like you could still see the noses, the faces, and the weird stuff like that going on. But I love punchy colors and crazy stuff.
So one of the, when you were doing, you started, we talked about when we were doing our test, we talked about that you were doing work for Mars Hill and New Spring, and then you approached Saddleback. How does that come about? You knew the niche, so knew you were good with kids stuff. You really wanted to do something for churches. So how did that look? So if somebody has an idea of something that they want to do, they have a genre, or they know who they want to work for,
Yeah.
or maybe they want to work in soccer. That's the thing. They just really love soccer.
Right.
And they want to do something with soccer and kids. So how would that look like when you were either finding, I mean, it's a little bit easier, like, hey, I want to do something that's kingdom building, so I'm going to do something with churches. So that's a way to go down. But how would that look? Like if you were to, I know that we talked about you doing stuff for bands, like from the 90s. So how does stuff like that, if somebody's trying to make it, I feel like they think they'll be found, but often it's that you have to do marketing, and it's more than just posting on Instagram, correct?
You're right. I think it comes from a heart issue. Like, do you love something? I'm a big fan of just being authentic, and it will show in your artwork if you're doing something that you don't have a clue about, and you're trying to pick up on these nuances, from a niche. But like, say the Christian bands I used to do work for back in the 90s, was that I loved them. So I did a cool shirt. I did this thing that I thought was a cool drawing, and then I just sent it to them because I loved them, and they're like, I get a phone call, hey, we want you to design T-shirts. And I was like, oh, wow. Or even just recently, there's another band that I like called Hang Massive, and they just play the hang drum or the pan drum, and it's just no singing, it's just drums, and it's really neat. And so I was inspired to do the octopus playing a hand drum, and then I tagged them in it in Instagram, and I got a follow from them, I got a like from them, and then a private message saying, hey, we think we'd like to work with you on some gear, or it's just about going, like, give things away, don't get taken. But like, if you did something that you love, but you did it for that person, and give it up freely, I'm going to see Michael Franti and Ziggy Marley this week, and it'll be 30 years since I've seen Ziggy Marley, and so
Wow.
I'm getting old. But I did a watercolor piece of a monster doing yoga. And out of the blue, I got a like from Michael Franti, who I really like his music. And so I'm going to go to the concert, but on Friday, but on Saturday, he's doing a yoga class at the same venue. So I'm going to go to that yoga class. I'm going to try and give him that particular piece because it meant something to me that he liked it. And you just never know where something's going to go like that. But as far as Saddleback goes, I was doing this thing called Drawn by Faith. I was trying to create a art licensing program, if you will, for churches that didn't have good funds or anything like that. They couldn't hire a me to do stuff, and it didn't pan out well. I think it was too early on, and it was just it didn't work out. But so anyways, I had emailed them, and they said, well, you know what, we've got someone that can do stuff that volunteers it. So we give them like $25, a page. I'm thinking, shoot, up here in Redmond, I can't afford to turn on my computer for $25. So like a year went by, and then all of a sudden I got another message saying, hey, we're trying to do this cartoon. We saw what you did over at New Spring, and we'd love to see if you'd be, a volunteer, if you'd be willing to help us. And I thought it was a one-time show, and that was like 3 years ago. We're working our way through the Bible now, and it is quite fun. In fact, there's Lucky, one of my 5 dogs. He's going to be hopping
I saw
around.
one made a little bed in the other chair. Yeah. Oh, yep.
Yeah. So I got my Chihuahua there and my Whippet mix there, and Lucky just disappeared. And the other ones are big, and they're afraid of me moving, and they're afraid of cameras and stuff. So I did have 2 more saddleback things. So you know that I'm not just doing silk screen character design. Let me see if I can share this.
You'll have to hit share screen again.
Yeah, there we go.
You were talking, and I wanted to see your face.
I'm learning. I'm a big boy now. Let's see here. So there's that. And so then I'll have to do, and I think we saw earlier was, okay, this is a different one. This is for the story of creation. So this is, even though it's small, it looks weird. It's 3 frames of a, what do you call it? What's that? Just the new TV dimensions,
Yeah, like 1920 by 1080.
Yeah, exactly. So times 3, so it goes the long way. And then, so then they'll bring the characters in, and the whole thing will either, the guy who does the animation is just brilliant. But so he'll pan, he'll kind of do whatever, and then his timing is just phenomenal. So he'll pan in and then zoom over, and so there's the tree of life, etc. So again, using the textures, using the brush, trying to find those strange shadows, that kind of little stuff. And since I grew up watching the Flintstones and Jetsons, I really try to keep that flat stuff going on, in there. And then even subtleties as far as, I don't want to draw regular mountains, so I'm just going to shape it, and then it gets because that's not the point of the whole thing.
But you're communicating. It still communicates. It doesn't have to have all the details of a regular mountain range. Yeah.
And show that distance. And then there was this. This was a beast. Noah's Ark. And they wanted it to be a cutaway instead of... So we had to kind of use our imagination, but living quarters, all this stuff. But it's all like just so many different layers, that I play with. And lots of fun. And so this is the same, those 3 screens, but now we're going up and down. So the guy's going to zoom in and have a great time.
That's cool.
So it takes a lot more time. So some projects I make good money on. Other ones, like this one, it took me a lot longer, even though I cannibalized other critters and things from other projects, from them. So, but it is a lot of fun. So I love doing backgrounds and trying to get into like even the odd simulated wood grain paneling kind of a thing. So more than just what do you call it? Character design. So
which is really cool, because you're kind of setting the stage now for animations or things that come in, which you're thinking about, like Dexter's Laboratory, or that was something I used to watch as well. So it definitely feels like those things. I think it also pushes you to think outside of what the normal illustrator, you're doing activity sheets, or you're doing something for Vacation Bible School. Now you're thinking about it in a much more, 21st century way. And I think that's the other thing, is that you may be a traditional illustrator, but you have to use the tools, you have to use and you have to think about how people are consuming your work.
Right. So, and that's why I love Illustrator, because I can export it anywhere I want. I can scale it anywhere I want. And I'm getting savvy enough that I can apply the textures and the feels and the vibes and whatever. And it's my go-to. I can't even, when I watch people do things that I would do in Illustrator, I'm just like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
in Photoshop, but I'm a snob with that. So
Andre said, hey, the lion's food is there too, but it's all moving. I guess it's the birds.
well, they had to have little things, kind of the details in there. There's like bird feed. There's, all kinds of different, so they want to have all those little details, food that they would have. So just trying
I
to make
love that. All right. So I have a couple more questions that I want to make sure that I get to. What's the best part of having having a long relationship with one client?
Ooh, the best part, aside from getting paid, no, I think that specifically with Saddleback, who is my, I almost just consider them my employer, because I just do so much with them, and then the other stuff trickles in. But I think that and maybe this might be because it's a church, maybe it's that they're just, they're caring. But boy, do they understand, that Drew's a different beast. And, there was a time where I'd get the stuff done on time and I would just, excel and do whatever. But then there'd be times where I just couldn't get off the couch. And I just told him, I said, I'm falling apart. I'm losing my mind. Would you pray for me? Would you allow me this weekend to get caught up? Would you, whatever. I poured my heart out to them in a way that I could never, I don't think I would ever, well, I knowing me, I probably would, because I'm an open book, but they let me express what I'm going through. And they don't accept that like he's just making an excuse. It's just, no, Drew's going through a real rough time. And so they try and encourage me and pray for me. So that alone is a lifesaver. Because any other client probably would have just said, well, you just don't, you're not making it on time. So biggest benefit right there.
So what would be a characteristic that you would tell somebody if they're starting a relationship with a client? What would be something that you would hope that they would look for in those kind of good long-term relationships?
Well, there's that nice line of friendship, camaraderie, and really being friends. Like I'm close enough that I can tell Saddleback just about anything, but yet, like, say, I'm not friends with them on Facebook. I just don't want I know that that's like not it's just, I like a little bit of separation of church and state.
Right.
It is nice, but I know when I need to, I can reach them, that sort of thing. We follow each other on Instagram, but Facebook is a different thing. So I don't know if that answered it quite.
What about with something like they've been able to allow you to excite and ignite and listen to you creatively and like go with what you're thinking, and so they have a lot of trust there? Is that something that you think you would? Actually,
that's, yeah, you saw into that. I wouldn't have even thought about that. But yeah, there's this, as I'm doing the watercolors and stuff like that, I was really trying to pitch to them, hey, I'm really passionate about this. I love this. How can we bring this into what we're doing? And they're like, I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know when, but yes, let's do it. And because it never hurts to ask. But so then there was the puzzle that we've never ended up having printed, but it was a big watercolor piece that they finally consented to. The other thing is I wanted to pitch to them, since we have a captive audience, a lot of people love Saddleback. I wanted to pitch to them having that Jesus on a t-shirt. And I could fulfill that by Amazon. So we would split the royalties. So like, we wouldn't make a whole lot of money like per shirt, but with the amount of people that they have, the followers, if even a fraction of them bought, then we would both stand to do season pretty well. So that was my
and that's where you're doing different. So instead of licensing it something out, so you have these relationships and these contracts with different kinds of clients, and some things are they buy it outright or they're licensing something. So this would have been a partnership. You owned the rights, but you're sharing all of the 50-50 or whatever. You're sharing the rights of that because you recognize their reach, because they had a large reach of people who would want that. So they wouldn't pay anything for you to design that, right? So that's kind of
Right. Well, yes and no. It's almost flipped because when I do stuff for them, this is all theirs. Like so, all this artwork is theirs.
Hmm.
But what they would be using is my account. So the
Hmm.
cool thing about print on demand is that it's on demand. It doesn't exist until you buy it. And I have found that merch is the highest quality of the print on demand stuff. That's
Hmm.
why I use it. I'm all about quality. Um, so they would use my account and so use my art, but I would just bring it on. They would have access to that account, and then there would be no inventory. They just say, hey, here's the link, go to town. And I was trying to pitch to them, you're having a new series on Noah. Well, let's make a new series a new shirt every series, and then the kids could show up and maybe they get like extra points or whatever if they showed up with that shirt. People do it for bars, like, hey, show up wearing our shirt and you'll get $1
Right.
off your drink. So that's another angle that I'm trying to think of. Okay, how can I make this a passive income or a different revenue stream, and enjoy what I do? And I got that fever, that bug from Dustin,
Yeah.
with
Retro supply. Hmm.
exactly. I use theirs about a lot of that stuff, but that was the big takeaway. His experience from Creative South was the most impactful for me. So that's
Oh,
what
that's
that's all
great.
of a sudden I'm like, oh, I wish I'd taken that silk screening design, class there. But oh well.
They have the silk screen there almost every year. So this year they
Next
did a
year.
letterpress. So
Oh, okay.
very similar though.
Yeah.
And they do have Dustin does have cool brushes. So his one employee is one of my kids.
Oh.
She was my design baby.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. So Drew, I gotta go get my hair colored because I have super gray hair. I
Hey,
started
me
graying.
too.
No, I have more gray than you. Mine started graying when I was 14, and I'm
Oh my. Well, that's
46.
that's regal.
My mom thinks it is for sure. I never knew my mom had any color hair. Like I thought her hair was white. Um,
Oh, that's funny. I love it.
I
But it's cool.
remember
I have a white streak, but
mine's
it's
all
fun.
white, so it'll get a little bit darker tomorrow. But I would love to continue this
Yeah.
to so that we can get a full hour in. We did really close, so I'm really thankful and thank you guys for all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thank you guys all very much. I can't think. I tried to read the comments but I'm simple-minded guy. But thank you all very, very much for the kind words and just the help. So thank
Well,
you.
and I want to make sure that everybody knows how to connect with you. I think I know them all by heart. So
That would be cool.
it's D Pocza, Pocza
ZA.
at
Yep.
Instagram. This podcast was brought to you by Audible. You can go to audibletrial.com/design recharge and get a free audiobook and a 30-day subscription. Okay, so D Pocza, Pocza, on Instagram. So I will type that. It's hard to do. That's why
And that's
I
pretty much it. Anywhere that, like, if there's any social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, just those are my two main ones. But almost anything I use, it's Deposa. Just
and
to
then
keep
your
brand.
website is
Posa.com.
Pocza. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Carrie wants to know, what brand of watercolor do you use?
Ooh, well, I was using Dr. Higgins.
The
Well,
inks.
I am actually using Dr. Higgins, Dr. Martin's
Hmm.
watercolors and India inks. Those, I love those, and the Winsor Newton Series 7 brushes. They're a little bit spendy, but boy, you get what you pay for, and it's worth every penny
That's
because they
awesome.
just smooth, sexy lines. And I learned that from Doug TenNapel, who, if you don't know who he is, find him. Master artist and theologian as well.
How do you spell his last name?
TenNapel, like TEN, the number, and then Abel. I can't even think, but
Able.
I believe so. He's the creator of Earthworm Jim,
Oh,
all kinds of other really cool, crazy stuff, and did album covers for like Five Iron Frenzy. He's got a YouTube channel that is just phenomenal. You just sit and watch him ink. It's just like I fanboy over him, and it's just beautiful stuff.
that's awesome. Well,
Cool.
it makes me want to get my PH Martin ink things out and then go crazy with
Do
that.
it.
So maybe I need to get invest in some better brushes for sure.
Oh, it makes a difference. Yeah.
But Drew, we'll have to do a part 2 because we didn't get through everything. And I know that one of the things that you love is that you just have this amazing support from your wife. And so I want you to be able to talk about that. And there's a couple other things that I would love for you to be able to just kind of talk about how yoga really comes in and helps mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually, you to be able to give all that you do and create, because I feel like that's you have been gifted with such a blessing of being able to teach people, but also being able to be an open book and share where you struggle, but then also that you've been able to survive and that you understand this business side of it. And so you know how to still have fun and create and being able to make money. And I think that that's it's a hard to pinpoint, because sometimes we know what we like and we do what we like, but it's not necessarily something that other people would buy. And so you kind of found this great way of honing in on some things. I love the sock monkey. I think that was, I think I got 2 shirts, and one was the sock monkey.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, and Andre says a sable brush, he said, is the one that he likes. And I did share your Amazon link.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It's on Amazon. If you go to Pocza Made, that will get you everything. But here's another.
Yeah, that's my brand, Pocza Made. And so it'll show up anything that I made, it'll be there. So yeah, that'd be super.
Some of those little clicky things that are on the back of people's phones. Right.
Yeah, the pop sockets. That's a different world. Yeah, exactly. Lots of fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, Drew, thank you so much. And thank you guys for showing up and staying late. And I really appreciate it. And Drew, we'll just have to do a part 2.
I love it. Take care.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.